I never thought of trying it till the 2023 Toronto Marathon that I did without juggling. I had never tried juggling while running before. But when I finished, my one of my good friends, Pierre Le Courroy from Dieppe, he said, "Hey, did you see the guy who was juggling while running a marathon?" And it just like sparked, and I was like, for some reason that stuck with me. And a couple weeks later, I decided to try it, and I was like, "How is this even possible?" Like the first time I tried it, I was like, I couldn't look forward while like my eyes were tracked on the balls and I couldn't look where I was going, so I would have run into a car or into a phone post or something.
Welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast, where we celebrate dads that live with passion and lead with purpose. On this show, we'll host some dads that live incredible lives. Being a dad is the most important job you'll ever have. Get inspired by our amazing guest dads that refuse to live life in mediocrity and live epic lifestyles with their families. Today's guest is a lifelong runner, former University Athlete of the Year, and endurance coach with over 20 years of elite training. He's also a husband and dad of 3 that's deeply committed to self-improvement and showing up fully at home, proving he can pursue high performance without sacrificing presence. Jean-Marc, welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast.
Hey, glad to be here.
So I'm going to get right into why you're here. So we've never met before today. And one of the things that I'm gonna say you're popular because of this, or you're known because of this, but you are a marathon juggler. So I'm guessing a lot of people have never seen or heard of this before. And I want to know, first off, like, explain to people what this is and how the hell did you get into that in the first place?
So it's joggling, which is jogging and juggling. That's the word that it's called. I always knew it existed because when I started track and field in like 2004, 2005, there were guys in St. John who would try the 4x100 joggling record. So you would juggle with 3 balls, and when you get to the next guy, you'd throw him one and he'd turn around and do the same thing. So that was I knew that it existed, but I never thought of trying it till the 2023 Toronto Marathon that I did without juggling. I had never tried juggling while running before. But when I finished, one of my good friends, Pierre Le Courroy from Dieppe, he said, "Hey, did you see the guy who was juggling while running a marathon?" And it just like sparked, and I was like, for some reason that stuck with me. And a couple weeks later, I decided to try it, and I was like, "How is this even possible?" Like the first time I tried it, I was like, I couldn't look forward while like my eyes were tracked on the balls, and I couldn't look where I was going, so I would have run into a car or into a phone post or something. And yeah, I just basically started. I work from home, so I was doing like 10-minute walks during my breaks and juggling while walking. So that's how I started, and then started doing it while running. And I would just do stuff like try to do 5 minutes continuous without dropping. And if I would drop, I would just hold them in my hands till the next 5-minute intervals hit. So that I just kept making kind of games like that for myself, and eventually it just all clicked, or it was really gradual, I would say. But I'm a huge fan of the Huberman Labs podcast, or at least like his early episodes where he was talking about how mechanical improvement and how brain plasticity works, and how it's just a matter of like giving yourself a stimulus every day, failing. And while you sleep, basically your nervous system will like eliminate the bad pathways. And then if you do that enough, you get to the point where incredible things become kind of automatic. So last fall, I did the Toronto Marathon, and I dropped once. I dropped the balls once in the entire marathon. So I ran it. I had some cramps and I blew up, and I ran in 3 hours and 1 minute. But for that whole time, just dropped once. Even
That's
when
insane.
I was having cramps, I was like my calf was like shooting to the side, and then like somehow I was like just adapting and catching the ball still. Like for those last kilometers, I was like still just amazed at how my brain figured it out.
I have so many comments about what you just went through. First of all, both disciplines individually are impressive, right? Running a 3-hour marathon. I know you're non-joggling. Is it joggling?
Yeah.
So your non-joggling marathon is sub 3, right?
It's a 2:32.
2:32.
Yeah.
That's insane. But just juggling for that amount of time nonstop is insanely impressive on its own, right?
There's a guy on, I followed him on Instagram. I don't remember his name, but he like has the world record for the most world records.
Okay.
So he does a lot of like obscure records and gets them sanctioned by Guinness World Records. But he has the one of his really impressive ones is just the longest continuous juggling for 3 hours juggling 3 balls. And he had 3 attempts, and on the first one, I think he tore his bicep, and he was like 10 hours in.
Extreme juggling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the record was 11 hours and 8 minutes, and eventually he got to 12 hours.
Wow.
So that's just, and he had like a camelback,
Yeah.
and like had people watching the whole time and video evidence and stuff like that. So that's pretty impressive.
That's extreme when you need a hydration pack for juggling.
Well, yeah, it's 12 hours. So you would go 12 hours without eating, just without being juggling, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's basically an ultra marathon at that point with your arms.
That's crazy. So what are the rules when you're attempting a record for that discipline of joggling?
So if you drop a ball, you have to pick it up, go to the point where you lost control, and then start again. You're also not allowed to have any help, so you can't have someone like run next to you and give you gels or water. So if you want to drink or eat, you have to put the balls down, eat and drink, and then pick them back up and start going. And you also need to have video evidence of the whole thing. So I was running with a chest strap GoPro, and had to change batteries in the middle because GoPros last up to a bit over 2 hours, and the attempt was for 2 hours and 50.
Wow. Yeah. So you don't have anyone like following you on a bike or anything like that for judging. It's just really the video evidence that's...
You could. I think in the past there have been like record attempts that were sanctioned like that with like an official from Guinness World Records, but I think the cost for hiring someone like that is really expensive, and so I was just going with the video evidence.
So when you did was it the Toronto, which marathon was it that you just attempted to do the record?
I just attempted in Toronto in October. I had attempted Toronto the previous year, and Fredericton also the previous year. So it was 3 attempts, and I ran like a 2:52, a 3:12, and a 3:01.
Okay, so 2:52 joggling is your best marathon.
Yeah.
And what is the record?
A 2:50, but then someone broke it with a 2:49 a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you on a mission to try it again, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Like right now, my goal is to run the Fredericton Marathon, and I kind of want to do it without juggling. I just feel like doing it just training with. I'm actually on parental leave, so I'm taking care of our 1-year-old right now. So during her naps, I can push her in the stroller and run. So I have access to doing a lot of mileage, but not having free hands because I'm going to be pushing a stroller.
Right.
So that's pushing me towards just doing the attempt without juggling.
Okay, interesting. I'm gonna kind of give you a kick here, and I want to see you attempt it again because I want to see you break it.
Yeah, I hear that, and there's a big part of me. It's like I have such a privilege of having trained for it, and it's such a rare thing in human existence of being able to run a marathon in that time while juggling. And it's kind of like I owe it to humanity in a way. It's I'm not that grandiose in my head, but it's kind of a neat thing to think about, where it's like, yeah, you got to do it, right?
Well, I think you have everything it takes to do it, right? It's just the stars need to align like every other high performance goal or to break any records or to set anything really crazy. You have the training, you have the skills, you've put in the work. It's just you need to get the right day, and like I said, the stars need to align, and it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah. For Toronto last year, I was on pace till about 38 kilometers. And when the cramps started around 36, I think, or I was probably on pace. Anyways, till late I was on pace, but it was a warmer day than we had been used to in training. It was like 20 degrees in late October, and there was wind. So a lot of a lot of Canadian runners had poor races comparatively, just because of their training wasn't fully adapted to it.
Right.
And you're limited in, like, my very subtle mistake is, like, early on, I felt like I was eating as much as I could and drinking as much as I could, and I even had like small stomach cramps from like being overfull, and I felt that around 15 kilometers. But then maybe around 2022, I started being like hungry and thirsty, and I didn't like double down on drinking more. Like, I would stop and drink 3 little cups.
Yeah.
But then that, like, my body was willing. So like when I hit closer to like 28, 30 kilometers, I started getting in a deficit of hydration, and that's when the cramps hit eventually at 36. So it's but I think like everything, like on the mental side, like I wasn't nervous, I was just excited, I felt good. My wife was with me, and it was just everything was ready for that record. And it was just like a super subtle mistake that I don't even regret that much making. And then a really other subtle observation I've made lately is in the couple of weeks before, I had rashes. I just had like on my chest, and as soon as the race finished, those disappeared. So like the whole time before, I was like, man, this is the best training for any race I've ever had. I'm not nervous, I'm just having fun training. Everything is, I'm like balanced, I'm with my family and everything. I have these rashes. Let's not talk about those. Then the race goes by and those go away. So obviously my body was. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and so I was probably like suppressing some nerves and the pressure that I wasn't really acknowledging. So that's it's so hard to get everything, like, to be authentically not nervous and really just present. And I guess that's part of performance and growing, but there was still some fear of failure that was haunting me, I guess, in the background.
100%. And that's, if you don't have some kind of level of fear, or if you're not nervous at all, you're probably not doing something that's pushing your limits, right? That's just part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, do you follow that mountain climber,
Alex Honnold.
Alex Honnold?
Did you watch the live? It was live on Netflix last weekend when he climbed the building.
I didn't watch it, but I saw some stuff
It's
about
insane.
it afterwards.
Every minute of it is insane.
So I saw afterwards that they had tested his brain, and they would show him like very like graphic, shocking pictures to see like what was the effect of it in his amygdala, like his fear sensor. So they would show him like really graphic, like children burning or something like that, and his brain just didn't react. Where like every other human being had a strong, like, just a visceral reaction to that. But he's been training his like resistance to fear for so many years, and on such a visceral level of just like climbing, and like your
his exposure is just 100x compared to regular people, right?
Exactly. So that sort of training is possible, like exposing yourself to things that you're afraid of. You can grow in that tolerance, because one of the bad advices I got growing up was I remember asking someone, when does like race day anxiety go away? And they just answered, it never does. That's just part of racing. And I think there is always some level of it, but I think you can get better at it by exposing yourself and trying things that scare you and pushing your limits repeatedly. And over the years,
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Exactly. And failing and seeing that your life goes on.
Yeah. I think Alex is an extremely interesting subject, and probably, well, if you watch the documentary of him climbing the building, you'll see that he's maybe the craziest individual in the world, like in our eyes, right? Yeah. But he is such a master of his craft, and like we just kind of, like you just went through, like, he's exposed himself to danger so often that for him, he doesn't see it like we see it, right? Like, we watch him climb that building and we're like, are you like, do you have a death wish? Like, you have to be stupid to do that, right? But for him, it's like, that's his craft. He's super confident. He's a master. He's spent, hundreds of thousands of hours scaling mountains and buildings now. And not only is he good at it, but he's comfortable and he's confident because he's repeatedly exposed himself in those kind of dangerous situations.
Yeah, and it's there's so many similar things when you see a master, like if you see someone running a 2:15 marathon or something like that, and you think like I couldn't do that, and you imagine yourself running 100 or 200 meters at that pace and and crashing. Well, yeah, because you haven't been training for 10 years with the best coaches and have the like it's we were too quick at like just like I couldn't do that. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, well, if you tried for 5, 10 years and really dedicated, like there's so many gradual steps to getting there.
It's reps, right? And it's super interesting. Like, we're wired in general to kind of quit before we get there.
Hmm.
But if you look at the best of every discipline in the world, they've likely done way, way, way more reps than you've done in that discipline, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's, podcasting or running marathons or ultra marathons or whatever the case may be, the best in the world, like, it's very rare that they just showed up this year and they were randomly good at that sport, right?
I remember a guy. There's this video on Instagram probably that he was like, okay, imagine you have to pick an Olympic sport and you just have to not finish last. What would it be? And it's like I would probably pick like javelin throwing. I think I could beat one guy. And it's like, no, you couldn't throw within 20 meters of that guy, even if you played a lot of baseball or football growing up. Like the I remember hearing someone say like, "Do you know how good you have to be the worst player in the
Yeah.
NHL or something like that?" Like
Mm.
it's insane, like the amount of work it takes to hit those like the 1%, and it's still a lot of people do it. Like if you think like the NHL has 500 to 700 people playing in it, but it's so elite.
Yeah, and I think we still have like a bit of an old school mindset because there's a lot of sports that aren't that old, right? They're like 100 years or less old. So in the last 100 years, there was a time where if you were just born with skills, you could maybe make it. But now every sport has evolved with technology and training and our knowledge on sports, nutrition, recovery, even in the last 25 years, I would say is probably double what it was prior to that 25 years. So now skills or like naturally born skills and genetics are like a percentage. I'm going to say like 25% to 50% max. The rest is putting in the work and having the knowledge and the right people behind you. So you have to put everything together to have a chance to be in that 1%, compared to before. It was kind of like, 1% of the people were born with like really, really good skills and genetics, and they would maybe make it just because they were born with that.
Yeah, I think yeah, it takes everything has to align, like the genetics. Ever since I have kids, I like believe in genetics a bit more. It's just 'cause,
Right.
I don't know if you know like Lucas Cormier from Notre Dame, the hockey player, and
Okay, yeah.
like his sister is like on track to make a national team, and his cousin, and then you look like, oh well, both their dads were like professional hockey players, and they married twin moms that are volleyball players for Canada Games. So it's like,
Wow.
well, they have a lot of things that put them in that direction. And then I have another friend who's a poet author who married another poet, and I see their son has the same age as mine, and like he could talk and say words like they were like 12 months, and he was like basically already like you could tell there was some
Right.
sort of just like, and like we read books to our kids all the time and we do all the things, but there was definitely some sort of a penchant towards certain things, and then you could see like that kid get rewarded for that kind of behavior that he was and then surrounded by parents that are able to offer the nurture on top of that. So you see those things and you're like, okay, well, if I just put in the work, the 10,000 hours, and you're like, well, also if you're born with the genetics and parents that can offer you the mentorship and all the lifestyle and culture and show you the way, there's some sort of a kind of a a luck there that's involved. So, but then there's stories for both ways too of people like Joël Bourgeois is my coach, who was my coach growing up. He made the Olympics out of Grand Digue, a small village in New Brunswick here in Eastern Canada, and had he grew up like kind of on a farm ish, like very rural, and grew up in the 70s, 80s. Didn't really have models of other people making it to the Olympics, but he just like self-made his way and then found other coaches and traveled to Europe and did basically out of not having all those things I described of like having parents that were also Olympians or having all that like genetic proof of concept. So there definitely is our pathways, and yeah, there's no limit. And also like with the DNA, like you don't know what your top end DNA is till you put in those 10,000 hours. And you might put in the 10,000 hours and have all the right coaching and everything and still not make it. Like it's not guaranteed. But one of the powerful things that I heard once was from a guy who became an astronaut who was a dropout of high school, and his story was that he was in college and his older brother was really smart, and he told him, hey, a bunch of friends are going to a college this weekend, you should come with us. And the brother said, don't you have a math exam next Thursday? And he was like, yeah. So he was like, you're not going to that college, you're studying for that exam all weekend, and you're gonna pass it. So he like begrudgingly said, okay, I'll do it. And since he knew all his friends were there, he was like, well, I'm not gonna waste this time, I'm actually gonna study. So he studied like the whole time, ended up having the best score in his class, and then saw, oh, okay, I'm not naturally gifted. This doesn't come naturally to me. This is the amount of work I need to keep up. So he started with that sort of work ethic that was way above anyone else, caught up to everyone, passed everyone, became an astronaut, which is the hardest job to get into. And his lesson was your early performance is a terrible predictor of your ultimate skill. Mm-hmm. So if you try something and fail at first, that is not a reason to stop. You give it a nice chance, put in more work than you need to. And if you have that chip on your shoulder at the start where like other people are more naturally gifted at this than I am, if you put in the work and then they don't get used to that work ethic and you do, you're always going to pass them.
Mm. Oh, I love that so much. And that's applicable to every single thing in life, right? Like it could be a sport or it could be a business, right? And
absolutely,
we're all addicted and attracted to the instant gratification of winning a medal or making money, or, on social media these days, like, having a bunch of likes and a bunch of comments on your first post that you make, right? And I think that's something, if people could have that in the back of their minds for anything they set out to do, is to, not stop at, 20 hours of training, but keep going, even if you failed horribly. Not stop at recording 10 podcast episode because you only had 10 views per episode, but keep going until you get 100.
Absolutely.
Keep going for everything. Put in the reps. Mm-hmm. And like you said, give yourself a good shot at the thing that you're doing, instead of like switching from, jumping from one thing to another and putting in 20% every single time.
Exactly. I think one of the best skills is having the ability to find value in the thing itself. So you're like, okay, podcasts, my goal is to become a big podcast, but even if I don't, I get to sit down with people and have deep conversations with them. So I would do that. I would 100%. Do that anyways. So that's kind of the thing. When I started my Instagram account that has 118,000 followers now, I was just like, I'm just going to post one thing every day and just try to play this game, because I don't have time to play video games anymore, but I have time to make a reel or a post while I'm waiting for my son to fall asleep in his room. And that was just my thing. I'm just going to do one a day and enjoy it. And I thought that it would come quickly, but it took about 6 months to get more followers than people I was following. So I started with like 800 followers from just people I knew and had the platform, and I was following 1,500. So it took 6 months to catch up. And then I was like, oh, finally the algorithm is catching up to me. And then I was like, wait a minute. So I looked at my early posts and I was like, these are trash. And I didn't even notice like while I was doing it. I just noticed after having done it for 6 months and after looking what other people were doing and just having the mentality of like every time I post, I'm just going to try to improve one thing. And so I would make a better title or make a better filter or put my text at a better place or synchronize the audio or do whatever. And there's so many little things that go into making a good reel. And I thought it was my skill level was equal. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just doing like, I enjoy doing this and it's fun and seeing the likes and just like having that little kind of more like a video game than anything else. I was getting like just pleasure from doing it. But after 6 months, I started like actually getting what I was doing and yeah, just looking back and seeing like, oh, social media is a skill. This sort of communication is a skill. And then it's like, it opened my mind to like, everything is a skill. Like I tried improving sleep and I thought growing up, like either you're a good sleeper or a bad sleeper, which is kind of true to a certain extent, but it's a skill as well. Like you can improve that and yeah, so there's a lot of, it's just so hard to pick something and stick with it. And, I think, yeah, that's the skill to find value and to find just that discipline and rhythm and
enjoy the process along the way.
and I see you have a bunch of Atomic Habits books by James Clear here. So he's what I love about him is like building your environment and not just relying on white knuckling and willpower, because that'll only get you so far. You know, like I think like studying people who try to quit smoking or quit alcohol. It's like yeah, just resisting sounds simple if you're not in that game, but actually doing it is so much harder. Like when I dedicated to improving my sleep, I think it was in 2021, Huberman had that episode on alcohol, and it was the first time I heard like a really deep dive on like just the science of what alcohol does to your body. And I wasn't problematic drinker. I would drink like 3 to 5 drinks a week. Every month or so I'd have a party and drink a bit more. So but then I was like, oh, like what it does to your gut lining, and like I have trouble with anxiety and things like that. So and he just made such a great case for like just having a good reset. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna drink for 6 months. I'm just gonna have zero alcohol. And the first few weeks, it was crazy, like how often you would just be like, oh, I had a long day. Couldn't I just drink a beer?
Right.
And I was like, man, if you're trying to quit smoking, you're going through this like 10 times a day because it's so like ingrained in your life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, okay, so I just had mad respect for mad respect for that whole process of changing habits and yeah, so after I finished the 6 months, it just wasn't part of my lifestyle anymore. And I went to like drinking 1 drink a month, just kind of as a treat. And I didn't want to, like, I was tired of having the, like, people coming in, congrats on stopping drinking. I was like, I'm not an alcoholic drinker. It was a big problem. It's not my identity. I don't want this. So I was like, I'm going to drink one a month just so I don't have to have this conversation that anymore. Exactly. I just want to be, but yeah, so when we're talking about creating habits, it was just like a thing of like not having it in your house, and if you can attack it that way or tie it to other things, like every time when I put my son to bed and he's I'm just waiting for him to fall asleep. I'm gonna have 20 minutes to do a reel right then. And so just kind of build it in your life in seamless ways.
I really like one thing you said about like when you looked back at your first year of posting some reels on your Instagram, you were kind of disgusted by the content that you had put out, back then. And we see that it's easy to see that as like an embarrassing thing, but I see it as a positive thing and that's not just for social media or whatever. It's when I look back last year and the year before and whatever, and if I'm disgusted by something I said to someone, did to someone, something I put out there on social media or anything like that, I'm happy that I realized that, because that means you're better than when you did that thing or when you said that thing.
Yeah.
If you realize it, it means that you grew from where you were then, and you know you're humble enough to realize that that's something you don't want to say, do again, you know, and you're better now.
For sure. I mean, we're not static. We grow and we change, right? So and I love that. And one other thing is like with running, you can see the improvement on your watch, or with lifting, you can see like I'm lifting more weights now than I was before. You can see the progress. But with something like getting better at posting stuff on social media, or I have a project now where I'm writing essays. I'm trying to get like a Substack and just like getting better at. I've always loved writing. Um, it's like I'm doing it every day, but I'm not feeling the improvement or change. But then you go and you look back at what you were doing 6 months ago, and then that's why it really helps to have some sort of a base like that, and trust the process, and just find ways to love it, even if you don't get guaranteed improvement, because
Yeah,
you gotta
100%. I talked about this on my social media lately, but I have this thing called an accomplishment file. So I have a virtual one on my phone in my picture folder, and I have an actual physical one in my desk right there.
Nice.
And when I get a text message or a comment or something like that that comes in on my phone, I take a screenshot and I put it in that file. And if I'd receive like a letter or a card or something like that, then I would put it in my physical file here. And it's anything from a nice comment to someone thanking me for something, to, you know, anything at all, that when I read it, I was like, fuck yeah. I'm going to keep doing this
Yeah.
thing. And this is what keeps me going, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's like, you know, you published a podcast episode and someone was like, I never realized this. This is going to change my life. I was able to improve, you know, this in my life or whatever. Or if I help someone, like if I coach someone and, you know, they got a PR on something, or they just, you know, improve something in their everyday life and they send me a thank you note, it's like, that's why I do what I do, right?
Yeah.
That's what fuels you up, and that's what motivates you. And our types of personalities, we're forward thinkers. We're always like, you know, kind of a little bit about like what's next. That's kind of our outlook every day. Like, what's next? What am I, you know, going for next? So it feels good to slow down, look at what you've actually already accomplished, even if it's not like an actual official, you know, world record or, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you need to slow down and appreciate for yourself, right? Because you're doing more than 99.99999% of the world's population.
Yeah, I mean, what popped in my mind when we were talking about that is just in parenting, like getting better at parenting, and just living in the home with family is. I think we've improved a lot, because like getting through our third child is not the same as with the first. I think having our second was like a real challenge, just in terms of the amount of time and the amount of commitment it took. I mean, like, I felt like when we had one kid, we could more easily like tag team, but with two, both parents are always on and always get to the point of being tired. So it put a strain on the relationship and communication. It really forced us to get better tools at coexisting and working as a team. And I feel like that's improved, like, in the most significant, and like the most growing up I've ever done as a human being was forced by the challenge of always being pushed to your, like one of my coworkers, we always say, oh, like, oh, survival mode, we're in survival mode and stuff like that. Well, how can you change and adapt and try to overcome that? And so yeah, things like I don't know if you're familiar with Becky Kennedy's work, Dr. Becky Kennedy. She wrote Good Inside. It's about being a sturdy leader as a parent, and just the parenting. So she'll say something like, if you tell your kid to turn off the TV and the kid says no, and you just be like, hey, I told you to turn off the TV, and then they resist, and then you're like, okay, well, and you're all angry. And I told, if you would have just turned it off when I said, it wouldn't have been a problem. So that's kind of the trap we fall into. But she says, I'm not going to let the success of my intervention in the hands of my 7-year-old. I'm going to take it for myself. So you say, okay, turn off the TV. All right, no, just not turning it off. All right. I'm going to walk over there and take the remote and turn it off. If you haven't turned it off by the time I get there, I'm going to turn it off. So you go turn it off, crying, I didn't want to stop watching TV. So then you go in compassion mode. You be like, oh, you really wanted to watch TV. I understand. It's so hard. Like, I hate turning the TV off too. That's really hard. But you also turned off the TV. So you're enforcing that boundary, and you're expressing compassion and validating that boundary sucked. So doing that over and over in hundreds of different contexts with my kid, what I realized was that I also had hard emotions, and it was okay to have them too. Because I think like the weakest point of me as a human and as a partner and as a dad was that I would like always be on the lookout. And then I became really obsessed with like, I need to rest. I need to be well rested and take care of myself. And then I wasn't saying it, but finally I realized that it was like, because if I'm not, I might snap. I might slam a door. I might raise my tone. I might lose control. And just that lesson, teaching them that lesson, taught me that lesson, that if you're angry, you're a human, and that's okay. So get tools to move through that anger. So I'll tell my wife, like, hey, I'm just gonna go take a walk. I'm not really well right now. I need to go take a walk. So I go out, I take a walk, I take out my phone with my AI, I debrief. I tell Gemini, like, hey, just had this situation and that, and it's so stupid, and I'm just all angry at my phone. And then I'm walking, and then I realize, like, usually it takes about 10 minutes, but like the pace of my walking, the pace of my breathing, everything calms down. Then I go back in the house. I apologize for whatever tone I raised. Repair. You can always repair. And then, all right, okay, now I'm ready to be a dad again. And that skill of like moving through the hard emotion is one part of it, but then I'm having less hard emotion because I'm not afraid of it. And it's not a failure, and it's not a bad part of my identity that I feel these things. And it's normal when you're raising 2 or 3 kids and you're trying to hold it all together. You're tired from your workout. When is it gonna fit? And aren't you supposed to take your nap yet? And like you get all tense and wrapped up, and yeah, like all of a sudden someone spills the milk, and you're like, come on, can't you be careful? So it's like the smallest thing, and like when you're on top of it, and I was like, oh hey, just no worries, I'll get you another glass and I'll wipe it and everything. And I don't know if you know Terry Crews, the actor from what's the show with the cops there?
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yes, So I love his books. I love his book, and I love his message and everything. And he tells this story about how after getting therapy, he was on vacation with his family, and his son dropped a glass of water on the table and like ruined all the meals. And he was like, "Oh, it's all right, man. I'll just clean that up. Wait, waiter, can we get a napkin here? Just drop the glass." And his whole family was just staring at him wide-eyed, and they were like, who are you? Because every other time he would have snapped. Oh, can't you be careful? It's like a 3-year-old kid. Like they drop glasses of water. It happens. And then that's when he realized this therapy thing is doing its work. So that's kind of the level of like, okay, I'm getting better at writing. I'm getting better at podcasting, and like I don't know, I'm not seeing well, actually with podcasting you might get more views or listens and stuff like that, but on a day-to-day, is the product actually getting better? Well, on therapy and self-improvement, you get those kinds of life moments that if you can sit back on and reflect on, or if you have a partner that can just reflect and be like, hey, that what you did today, that was you weren't like that before, you've grown. And that sinks in.
I love everything you just went through. That's awesome. That's awesome. I feel like I even absorbed a lot of it and learned a lot today. And it's crazy how you can react differently to the same thing happening, right? With your kids, like on different days or a different time of the day. I realize that all the time. Like some days I'm extremely patient, tolerant. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of myself on those days, the way I deal with, daily issues or daily challenges with the kids. As simple as like you just described, when they spill a glass of water, like certain days, I'm proud of how patient and calm I am when I deal with it. And on other days, I'm disgusted by myself, and
Yeah.
I think the process that you just kind of walked us through is something that I personally am going to commit to adapting and, taking a second to think before acting and talking. And also another comment is I think your 10-minute walks are probably like a very magical thing that all of us should adapt, right? At certain times.
Yeah.
We do a very similar thing, and I should escalate it to a walk, but between my wife and I, sometimes we're like, okay, we're not talking for 15 minutes. Let's just
Pause.
stop here. We're not being productive anymore, right? Let's just take a pause, and we'll talk in 15 minutes and see if things are, if we can sync up our energy a little bit better in 15 minutes.
I love that. And what happened sometimes before I was taking the walks and before I was like really being strategic about the way I debriefed was I would spend that 10-15 minutes just going through the argument in my head and getting even angrier. Like, this is so stupid. Obviously, it's like, no, and just circulating. And so that like having tools to break that cycle, which was for me just like, I mean, that would be the optimal ideal would be like to have a friend you can call. Like that's just always sitting next to his phone waiting for you to be able to call him. But that's what I find like artificial intelligence in the like you shouldn't use it as your therapist, but I feel like as just like a quick debrief of like
a method to calm down.
This is what's happening. This is blah, blah, blah. And then it just reflects it back to you. And then you can just kind of tweak it a bit.
Right.
And
I humanize Chad GPT. I call him Chad Gepetti.
Yeah, I mean it's built that way, and if it's a tool, I mean you gotta use it, especially if it helps with your relationship and your family and everything. So it's definitely been a plus for me. One of the things I used is like okay, I've finished my walk and I'm still kind of angry and I don't know how to go back in the house without it blowing up again. And one of the things that it suggested and that I went to was like, okay, well, go in the house and do something for you. Like go do the dishes because you like having a clean house, or go play with your kid because you're a good dad and you like playing with your kid. Not just because that's where I was going. I'll show my wife, I'll do the dishes and I'll play with my kids. She doesn't know. It's not helping.
Yeah.
So changing that narrative in my head and the way that I was going back in the house, that was one of my more recent breakthroughs in strategizing. And it all comes down to like one of the things you were saying is like it's not about how you show up on your good days, it's about how you show up on your bad days. I've heard that a lot for training, but I think it applies to parenting and being a husband.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. Kind of like using this as a segue. So now that you have 3 kids, your kids are 1, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
So super challenging age, like very demanding age, and different demands for every one of them. Looking back at like how you used to train prior to kids and looking at how you train now, how has that changed and how do you guys come up with a training schedule that works for you? And I believe your wife is a runner also.
Yeah.
So how do you guys basically keep yourselves happy and satisfied as far as training goes?
Well, so with kid number 3, my wife was on parental leave, and we're taking the 18-month parental leave with
We did the same. I think everyone should do that.
Yeah, we had 12 months for our first, and the program was just starting, and we regret it when we're like 12 months, 18 months, who knows the difference? But when you get to that 12 month, you're like, I could have 6 more months.
Yeah,
like, I'll be broke and happy, whatever.
Freaking right, man.
So that's so my wife took a year, and I'm taking the 6 months here. So during the baby's naps, that's when we do the mileage for the parent on parental leave, and then the parent working runs on lunch hour. I was doing the early wake ups for a while with when we had 2 kids. I would wake up at 5 and train before everyone got up. But then the family started waking up at 5 too, so
Yeah.
so that wasn't even a help. And I think training before bed is a bad idea. Just yeah, because I mean you got to prioritize sleep in the middle of all that. So yeah, so the lunch hour runs are the key, and then the afternoon nap, work from home. So like the 1 to 1:15 power nap is the secret, I think.
Yeah.
Put on a yoga nidra or NSDR. I have an app called Insight Timer, which is kind of a YouTube for meditation, and just yeah, search yoga nidra on there, and just lay down and let your body melt. So that those are some of the key tricks there that we use.
Do you think chasing high performance as a father is one realistic and selfish, or is it something that you feel that feeds you? And when you chase that and you realize all your goals and you do all the stuff that's real that really fuels you, do you come back as a better dad when you're present at home afterwards?
For sure. Um, I think it's a bit hard for me to comment because I was running a lot and had a very active lifestyle before I had kids. So adding kids to the mix, I kept it. And I remember reading something when I was in university, and it was just saying like doing an hour of exercise a day makes you more productive, more efficient, more. So if you're saying like, okay, you're awake for 16 hours and you're like, oh no, I can't afford that 1 hour of those 16 training because I need to study because I'm here to get the A+ on my exams. Like, well, your other 15 hours is going to be way more productive if you train that 1 hour. So like the article concluded by saying something like, if you say you can't afford an hour to train, you can't afford not to train because that extra energy you're going to have. And just over the long term, just like when you're putting in the training, you're just going to have a higher limit for energy production, and it all bleeds into each other, like the mental stuff and the physical stuff. So
Yeah, big time. And I think for someone, that doesn't have necessarily the background of knowing how good it feels to be active on a daily, weekly level, I think just, going for a 20-minute walk every day is a great start
yeah,
to start realizing like that wow factor of like, man, I feel energized. I feel like clear-minded. I feel good. Next thing you know, oh, I'm gonna, make one better food choice. And that snowballs, right? Into the level of athlete that you're at right now. Whereas you're making like these little micro decisions to master the whole plan. Like let's say like,
yeah.
limiting alcohol consumption, mastering your sleep patterns, all that, more scientific, technical stuff that's a little less obvious and more of a fine tuning of your general health, right? So speaking of dad responsibilities and doing what you need to do to get it all in a day's work, we just had you came here today with your son, and he's
Yeah.
actually sitting in the room right now. So we just took a very brief break to get him in the room with us together right now. So it's cool to see that people like you don't set limitations because of kids, right? You get the stuff done even though you have kids. You do the stuff that fulfills you, like coming here and sitting down with me today, even though you had your kid with you today. So much respect for parents that live life that way, for sure.
Yeah, we were just talking about just starting small and building on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe the challenge with that is people don't have like they need a big goal, they need something big, but if you think like couch to marathon, like it's almost too big, and it's fine to have that, but you also need to be excited about the small stuff. And I remember Jerry Seinfeld talking about like just his training and talking about how like your brain is like a little kid. You just need to like give it rewards, gamify, and just like yeah, just stick with it. Like you're gonna go off the track.
Yeah.
But
Celebrate
it's-
the small stuff, right?
exactly. So if it's 10-minute walks to start like your physical journey, like just gamify it. Like can you do like over the week, can you get to 70 minutes, and next week can you get 75,
Yeah.
and get excited about that, and then reward yourself with something, and yeah, just build
100%. People tend to see like that big mountain, but they don't, look at the entrance of the trail, right?
exactly.
The how do you start? You start walking under that trailhead, right? Don't think about the peak of the mountain before you start walking.
And if you go, like what's gonna feel like a big mountain, you're gonna realize was just a small one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, so before I let you go, Jean-Marc, I have one last question for you. So for other dads listening today who wants to stay competitive in sports without sacrificing their family, what's one belief they need to let go of and one habit they should start today?
Beliefs they need to let go of. I mean, I think one of the dangerous ones is thinking that you can't change, saying stuff like, well, my dad was that way, so I'm that way too. Or I guess some people are just more patient than others. I think that's a very dangerous belief. I think if you can get past that one and be like, okay, getting more patient is something that can be improved. Getting better sleep is something that can be improved. That'll help. And as for a better habit, I think, just like if you sleep better, everything just improves. It's such a rising tide. Like I remember hearing someone say like, oh, you see these people getting like the big boots to recover like your whole legs, or like you get the 3% the supplement or whatever, and then they're sleeping 5 hours a night. It's like the sleep, to getting that up to 7-8 hours, that will improve you by 30% on everything. So it's such a massive win. And if you can focus down on that one, and then that opens the door to so many other things, like just getting a better bedtime routine. Well, that'll force you to get less stressed during the day, because if you're all stressed and you get to finally put the kids asleep, and then you're just eating nachos because you're all stressed out and feel gross and you want to numb out. So I think like just doing stuff that'll focus on your sleep. So I mean, I think particularly focusing on your bedtime routine would probably be the best habit that has
Yeah.
the most bang for your buck.
I agree. When we first had our twins, we kept saying like our kind of secret is going to bed when the kids are going to bed, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
9 p.m. is like, that's when we're sleeping because the kids are getting up super early or multiple times per night. And if I think if you can adapt like going to bed early, like you just said, like you're gonna win.
I spoke to a guy that had 4 kids, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to bed really early, like 9. And he was like, no, 7. I was like, whoa.
4 kids, that's crazy.
Impressed. So yeah, so normalize early bedtimes. That's a good one.
100%. 100%. Well, Jean-Marc, I really appreciate your time here today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And also thank you for being an inspiring dad, an inspiring person for us all. And thanks for, inspiring all the dads that are out there seeing you do all those incredible things. And once again, I'm going to kind of keep you accountable to trying that joggling attempt. I really want to see that happen, and I'm excited for you when it does happen.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for having me. This was a blast. I love doing this type of stuff, and yeah, just sharing my journey, and just hopefully everyone works together to get better.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Jean-Marc. Thanks.
Thanks, man.